Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Safari webinar. We're really happy that you've joined us today. It's so great to see all of you, and we're so excited to talk about this trip that we're hosting in May 2026. Renato is joining us, Renato Granieri. He's a really accomplished wildlife guide and wildlife photographer, a conservationist that does amazing work all over the world. And we're so lucky at Arctic Tern Expeditions to have Renato building and hosting this wildlife conservation safari to Uganda. It's a place that's close to my heart. It's a place where I've gone and had amazing wildlife experiences, some of which you'll see here in the slideshow. Um, of course, Arctic Tern started in Svalbard, and hence the name. But when you look at wildlife experiences and when you look at how impactful they can be, Uganda is a perfect example of everything that we hope to show our travelers, everything that we hope to convey to people, the power and the majesty of this wildlife, the profundity of impact that these experiences can have on somebody, and also the depth of connection that you can get with local communities, especially as we're engaging these communities that are so close to the wildlife. What we do when we're in Uganda is something that we're really proud of. We go in and we focus on wildlife conservation experiences. So we go in, see wildlife that has been threatened or endangered, and then we support the communities that help support these wildlife in keeping them around and protected for generations to come. I'm really excited for Renato to speak to this and really excited that you could be here this morning. Thanks, Renato.
Excellent. It's Renato here. Hi, everyone. Hi, Phil. And thanks for the opportunity. And so let's go through the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Safari 2026, which essentially has a new component compared to previous years. So we found another interesting and evolving conservation story around wild rhinos. They are currently being bred in a sanctuary, and we just wanted to add this element because it fits very well with anything that we do. So we do have a vision, so we don't just take people from A to B to take pictures or to tick boxes, but we just want to offer something deeper. And I always say what I'm trying to do with my images and the way I take people around is trying to establish a connection or strengthen a connection between us and just the places we visit. Of course, gorilla, chimpanzees, they're very popular in Uganda, but they done in a very successful way to, of course, to preserve the animal, but also just keeping at the core of the conservation, the people around the projects. So we want to engage with the communities and trying to establish their connection so that we can hear firsthand what the locals, the people that primarily act as conservationists, have to share with us. So let's go through an overview. As I said, we built this itinerary based on 4 primary blocks, started with the wild rhinos in Uganda, and then moving through chimpanzees, gorillas, and finally the shoebill and any other bird life that we can find in the Mabamba swamps, which is one of the main strongholds for the shoebill. Let's talk to the rhinos. First of all, we keep mentioning conservation. So we handpicked the projects they fit with the whole purpose of us visiting, and of course, simply by financially supporting the rangers and the the accommodation. These are all, this is basically the financial support and effort we put into that, because just through our presence, we can support the rehabilitation and the preservation of the animals. So I've done the visit to the Ziwa sanctuary a few times. It's a very interesting project. And so we're going to stay there. So we're going to spend the night there, and they will give us private access to visiting the rhinos very early in the morning, and obviously in the evening. So we have one evening, and then the following morning. So we do when the light is at its best, so sunrise and sunset, or sunset and sunrise, where the park will be open only for people staying at the sanctuary. So say the sunset or the sunrise is at 6 o'clock in the morning, the park will open at 9. We will have the window where hopefully we will be the only ones at the lodge before the park open its doors to other guests. Now, this is not a particularly busy place. It's a place where we can leisurely enjoy the quiet environment. There will be armed rangers coming with us. Of course, these people don't intend to shoot rhinos or anything else. The rhinos are habituated to people, so is more for protection. It's more for protection against poachers. Even there hasn't been any single episode of poaching in the reserve. You don't really need to arm people or wait for something to happen before you take all the precautions to preserve the rhinos. So it's a very interesting place, and obviously having the rhinos habituated, it will give you the opportunity to get a little bit closer to what you would do with fully wild rhinos, because the rhinos know that we are there, and therefore we can be a little bit more relaxed, obviously following the guidelines from the rangers. So there are 2 treks included in the package. Then moving on to the next activity, of course, the same yellow label sticker on the top right. By paying the permit to visit the chimpanzee, that means they're fueling all the financial spiral. They, of course, we pay for the rangers, we pay for the activities, and then it feels to me, and I've done this so many times over the last 10 years, it feels like a very strong contribution to the numbers and the quality of life the chimpanzees will have in Kibale, which is the area we will visit. So 2 chimpanzee treks are included on 2 consecutive days. Now, this is a project that is particularly close to my heart. So I do lots of, I want to touch very briefly on this. I do lots of work with active rehabilitation and rescue of chimpanzee in other areas of Africa. I actually spent quite a lot of time in Sierra Leone. If you check my website, there's lots of stories I can tell about rescued chimpanzees and rehabilitated chimpanzees. They obviously are very transferable to the way the chimpanzees just behave in the wild. So there are lots of anecdotes I'm very happy to share on a regular basis. They are less studied from books and more learned on the ground after years and years and years I spent trekking wild and spending time with chimpanzees in a sanctuary. So just to give an idea, because that's one of the questions that normally pops up quite regularly, can I do it? I normally walk very slow. Is it something that is for me? And I can tell you that normally the chimpanzee area we're going to visit is normally mostly flat terrain. The pace is normally very low. So chimpanzees do not tend to walk particularly fast, especially when we visit them, because normally getting into the forest in the morning, we normally catch them after breakfast, so there is the time for grooming, bonding behavior, and these are all the the sort of aspects of their daily life we hoping we will be able to capture. Every trek is different, so that's why we have two different treks, and in exactly the same way, you might do things that you are used to, but of course the interaction, we don't know the the synergy the chimpanzees might have on their specific day. Some of them might be grumpy, some of them might be absolutely socially in peace with each other. So every trek has a very, very different impression they leave. So moving on to the gorillas, of course, this is one of the biggest or the greatest conservation stories. And I'll bring you back to about 20 years ago, the number of mountain gorillas they were found between DRC, so the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwanda, and Uganda, was just over 450 of them. Now, 2 years ago, they surpassed the 1,000 mark. This is not by accident. This is primarily because of the conservation effort, the government, the locals, the guardians of the forest. And thanks to the finances that we bring into the country has been particularly impactful and particularly successful. So the reason why the number has increased is also due to the willingness of foreigners and tourists going to visit them. They, of course, brings protection because brings money to the community, and simply worthwhile. This is probably the most successful conservation story on the entire planet. So we tend to include one permit, and we leave we give the option to book another permit. So the permits cost $800 per person. We do not monetize on that. The local agency does not monetize on that. So this is purely going to the conservation efforts and purely going to the gorilla projects. As I said, so we have at the moment 3 confirmed bookings, and the 3 people who also booked the second gorilla trek. So 2 of the people there are coming are repeated guests. They have traveled with me actually to Uganda. We did exactly the same trip. We didn't do the rhino that time, so it's something new for them. But they are repeated guests. They're very excited to return with us. And because, as I said, the gorillas, like the chimps, every single trek is very unique. And I can tell you, I can mention to you and talk to you about every single gorilla trek and chimpanzee trek I've done, because they are very lasting memories in your head. They're so emotional. The interaction is so emotional. These memories will never leave you. And in a way, they trigger more and more engagement, and that's why I keep going there, because I think it's something that I'm very proud of. And we feel, and with Arctic 10 we are so deeply into trying to develop the engagement with wildlife that we really want to go back to the same places and make sure they our guests are happy with not just seeing them and taking pictures and ticking boxes, but also with an overall emotional engagement with wildlife. I took this picture actually last year, so we had a wonderful encounter. But as every year, even the picture before, I took that last year during my last trek. So there is lots of conversations about, lots of people say it's very tricky to do it. Now, although it can be steep, hilly terrain, one thing I can certainly promise you is that there are people on the ground to help, and the people on the ground to help can bring your bag, they can bring all your camera equipment, but they can also help you. There will be walking sticks they can provide. So we are fully equipped with a bunch of locals. They are very, very excited to share what they're really proud of. They're proud of their wildlife, they're proud of their country, and therefore nobody, I can promise you, nobody will be left behind. If someone has a slow walking pace, we will follow the pace of the slowest in the group. So don't worry about whether you're gonna get there, because we will get you there. Take it easy, don't get stressed, because we're all there to help, us and the local. And then the fourth and last major components, when I say major, because obviously we are in a country where wildlife is pretty much present everywhere, so there are always impromptu encounters, and this is the last component, because we go intentionally to see the Shoebill, and we have 3 different canoe rides to take you there. This is another very interesting conservation project I'm so keen always to talk about, because the fishermen work with the guides taking us out. And again, this is very successful because everybody looks after the Shoebill there. Again, by our presence, obviously, we're fueling the money into not just the people taking us out, but into the whole community, the small village they operate and will come with us and share their phenomenal expertise regarding not just the Shoebill, but regarding the habitat and so on. And one day we will have a local researcher joining us. So she's been doing work with us and with me for a few years. So she gives a sort of like very fresh information about the last few weeks and the last few months and all the challenges the Shoebill is facing. Primarily given to triggered by habitat destruction and fire are the main. There's not much poaching, although it's been recorded in years ago of people coming and stealing eggs, stealing shoebills. The only problem is the shoebills are so bad, living in captivity, they get really, really stressed, and ultimately they don't really survive for a very long time. So this is just to give you an idea of a canoe. This is a very dear friend of mine. He's a conservationist and photographer. So we went on a private tour, and I just wanted to show the type of canoe. They have a very small motor. And why do we use these canoes? Because these canoes are the only way you can actually go through the swamps. The swamps sometimes are very dense with vegetation, so the only way to move around is to have these very long canoes, very narrow but very long canoes. I can tell you they have like a cushion support, so we're not going to sit on naked wood, so they're quite comfortable. And yes, it's probably the best way to move around. It certainly is one of the only ways to move around. The good things is that we're gonna be at water level, so if you do enjoy doing low angle photography, these are wonderful mode of transport, they can definitely help us achieve anything we really want to do. When I talk about the swamps, as I said, there is so much wildlife. We had a wonderful encounter with river otters last year. They were hunting and catching fish, and this is much smaller than the giant otters you might find in the Pantanal in Brazil, but they as vicious, I would say, and as able to catch fish with incredible abilities and skills. So they're very good fun, and it's probably the only mammal living there. When it comes to, just to give you a very quick idea of bird life, there are kingfishers. There's the pied kingfisher. There's the malachite kingfisher, the grey-headed kingfisher, herons, all sorts of like the purple, grey, squawk herons. So there's a huge variety of what we can find. On the top right, there's a crane. This is the national symbol of Rwanda, and they absolutely gorgeous bird. They have lots of different colors. The red, they have blue eyes, and they're really interesting. Hopefully we're gonna see them on the way. And obviously bee eaters, also small passerines and butterflies, dragonflies. So there's a huge variety. If you think about the Uganda holds about 10% of the number of species present on the entire planet. So if you think about, there are 11,000 species of birds on the planet, you can find about 1,000 of them, actually more like 1160, 1180 different species of birds just in Uganda. Some of them are residents, some of them are migrants, but all in all is about 10% of the global population of species that you can find. I just want to give you very briefly, so there are, in addition to the gorilla, the rhinos, the chimps, and the shoebill, there are 3 specific projects we want to support, and we are very keen to use their facilities. So there is when we go to Bohoma, where the entrance to the gorillas, the mountain gorillas, there is a lodge where we're gonna stay. And one of the reasons a repeated guest joining this trip said to me, one of the reasons why we're coming back is because we're gonna stay a Right for a Woman. Right for a Woman is a fully governed conservation project built by a woman to support local women. So empowering women in Bwindi is what is one of the main conservation projects that is in the area. So we're gonna stay there for 3 nighs, and we're gonna meet all these women. They do wonderful work with cooking for us, doing lots of workshops. They potentially you can join, you can certainly see, because they're right there. And it's a wonderful cause that I feel incredibly attached to, because the very first time I saw them, I visited them in 2016, they were just starting, and now the whole project has taken off, and it's just magnificent. In the same area, there is a pangolin center I discovered a few years ago, and again, a very is an additional conservation, very localized, which means the leader of this project, Moses, he took is sort as a goal in life, asking around people to bring poached or found pangolins to his property, and in return he started building and farming and helping people understand how to farm. It's mainly directed to people that used to live in the forest. So these people used to be 100% hunters, so they didn't really know when the project started how to farm, how to harvest honey, how to collect and harvest potatoes and tomatoes and peppers. But also he built like a pool where he can grow fish for the communities, basically to use rather than hunting for bushmeat in the forest. Now, this has been very incredibly successful at a local level because people turned up saying, "Oh, I found this pangolin," and what the guy would do, what Moses would do, they make sure the pangolin, they would take care of the pangolin, and once the pangolin rehabilitated with no health issues, it would drive the pangolin 12-14 hours away in a pristine forest where they can be reintroduced and hopefully have a better life. And also one of the afternoons that we're going to spend at Ride for a Woman, after we do the gorilla trek, we're going to visit the guardians of the forest. These are the right people they used to hunt mammals and bushmeat and small deers. Now, of course, they've been asked to leave the forest, so they're being relocated just outside the national park. So, of course, they can stay there, and they benefit by us going there to meet them. So they're very proud of what they do. They're equally proud of their conservation effort, of course, to save the gorillas and everything. And they're going to teach us everything. They're going to teach us what they, how to light a fire, or what they used to do when they used to poaching has a very negative connotation. And that's what normally we refer to the killing, the slaughtering of local wildlife. So these people are called now the guardians of the forest because they do look after the forest, and they can teach us. So we got lots to learn about what their challenges were when they had nothing else but going into the forest essentially and find food, primarily, as I said, like meat and small deers, as I said. But sometimes gorillas and chimpanzees could get into traps and so on, even if it was unintentional. Obviously the damage it's been repaired in a way, because now these people are very keen to preserve what they have. Now, a couple of things from a health point of view. So yellow fever certificate is mandatory pretty much now everywhere in most part of Africa. Yellow fever is still present, so is a vaccination that lasts for life, has been upgraded for life. It used to be 25 years, but now without any extra jab has been converted to life. Malaria is present. Tablets are highly recommended. Some people take them, some people don't take them. My view is, from a personal point of view and from a company point of view, we have the obligation to recommend you taking the malaria tablets. You just go to your GP, to your doctor, and they will give you the prescription. I take Malaron. You can take doxycycline or other cheaper version. But best to speak to your doctor, who recommend you best based on the area you visited. And the visa, check your country requirement. I think there's no. I think everybody, pretty much Americans and Europeans, do need a visa to enter the country. It's very easy. You can do it online. You pay. Today is $50. I don't have any knowledge or plans to raise it in the next few months, but of course we can touch base just a few weeks before the trip. It's $50. You do it and you get it within, I would say, probably 2 or 3 days, you get like a PDF document which you can print and take with you. And I think this was the last slide, unless Phil, you want to cover anything else or I missed anything. Just feel free to jump in and and add anything you wish.
Yeah, Renato, thank you. Thank you so much for creating the presentation and sharing that with all of us. I think it's a brilliant trip, and it offers so much that engagement, that interaction with communities, and that those encounters with the wildlife you described. They're really profound. The times that I've gone and seen gorillas, they just stick with you. I think they're one of the most impactful wildlife experiences that you can have because you feel that connection, don't you? Um,
Absolutely.
what's a interaction that sticks out for you, Renato? What when you think of gorilla interactions, what what is something that happened that you think is really special, or an encounter that comes to mind when you think about this kind of impact?
I think there is something that we thanks for this question. This is a wonderful question because it brings me all the feelings now from the previous encounters. There is something that we tend to dismiss quite a lot when we are in the presence of wildlife. We tend to dismiss they are perfectly aware of us being there. They're perfectly aware of what we think and what we're doing there. One of the most engaging things is just look at a silverback in the eyes or a big female in the eyes, and you will realize and obviously without any offense to any human beings, you have a human being in front of you. Obviously, we know how related they are, even in terms of like we shared over 98% DNA with chimpanzees and gorillas and bonobos and orangutans. But one thing is what you read in a book. Another thing is when you in front of them. I think particularly last year I had a very emotional encounter because I ended up going to visit the same family I met in 2024, and I realized a female I had lots of pictures of. She had a baby this year. So when I met her last time, she was pregnant. She was in front of me, heavily pregnant, and then 2 months later, she gave birth after 8 months, 8.5 months of gestation to a wonderful. He was 3 months old when I saw it in May, very mischievous and absolutely wonderful. And so seeing the individuals thriving in their environment and see all these babies playing and being mischievous, I think is just wonderful. And there is something I want to mention. Obviously, the area we visit in Boma, I think there are 4 different families, and so the allocation of the families will be determined on the day we there based on our physical activity or ability and the ability of other guests going to see other families. So we capped the group to 6 guests plus me. The maximum number of people going on a private visit is 8. So if we have 6 plus me, it's going to be only us. If it's 3, 4 plus me, there might be a chance that 1, 2 solo travelers might be joining us. But certainly there will be no crowds and no more than 8 people visiting a family together. So it's a very intimate interaction you have with them, and they're perfectly aware of anything you do, the way you move and what you do. You know exactly what you're doing there and why you're there.
That sounds so special. Seeing this female with their brand new baby, and they're
Absolutely.
they're so cute, aren't they? The gorilla babies with the little shock of hair at the top, and they look at you with those big eyes. It's really incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the group size too, Renata. That's one of the questions we've got in. And
Yes.
another one I have for you is just a logistical question. Just around transport around the country, keeping in mind that we're visiting a bunch of different areas around Uganda, and there's some driving involved, and wanted to just speak to the kind of transport that we're providing for our guests. I know there's a guide that you work with regularly as you're in Uganda, and just kind of tell us
Yes.
about what that looks like.
So yeah, I've been working with the same guide, Rob, for the last few years. The way we're gonna move around by a 4x4 minivan, which is the same van we've been using for the last few years. Very capable to move around, essentially not get stuck, because one of the things that might happen in certain area, if you get a little bit of rain, they can be, not all the roads are perfectly with tarmac, although they improving. We're gonna go occasionally for a little bit of an African massage. That's what the residents call the bouncing around. They say no, it's just African massage. That's the way we deal with things. But it's very comfortable. It's got air conditioning, enough space for people, and plenty of luggage. So I rather stay all in one place. And we're just going to move all together. And when we move from one place to another, we load the luggage in the morning. There will be lots of people from the lodge helping us out with loading and offloading. And there is, I think, one or two long drives. So the long drives obviously take into account we're going to stop for lunch. We're gonna stop to stretch our legs and so on. I think there is one very long, if I'm right, that it might be one very long drive. But yeah, we stop us and when we need, obviously, to give a rest also to the driver and so on. Does he answer
Yeah,
your question, Phil?
yeah, it sure does. It sure does. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for that, Renato.
there's no conditioning just in case and it gets a little bit hot.
Yeah. Air conditioning and water inside the van, and it's a
And
vehicle
water
that
as well.
yeah,
Yes, so we're gonna
yeah.
bring water. We're gonna give you the water bottle directly from the agency. So they come with water bottle to refill, so to avoid any waste of plastic. So that we're gonna travel with a big tank of water that we can refill anytime that's needed.
Fantastic, fantastic, and it's great to hear that you've used the vehicle for a couple of years now, and that it's proven itself reliable through
Yes,
the
absolutely.
African
More than a
massages.
couple of years. I've
Yeah,
been using exactly the same vehicle for many, many years, and it never let me down.
fantastic.
Perfectly capable, is 4x4. So even in case of rain, we can easily surf the mud with no issues.
And it's that classic African dirt and sometimes classic African colored mud. It's just that red earth that is so
Yes,
beautiful.
that's right.
And
That's the one. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Okay.
It's all the way like this. I mean, there are areas where there's, tarmac and absolutely
Oh yeah.
perfect, or perfect. The roads we are more used to, but there might
Mhm.
be bumps on the way.
Yeah. Big highways on the majority of the big crossings. It's when I went, it was really when you went to go to these wildlife experiences where you might do a little bit more off-roading. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay. One other thing here. Uh, Entebbe, flying in and out. What are your experiences with the Entebbe airport? Do you feel like it's a pretty easy fly in, and the transfer to the guest house is a pretty smooth one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guest house is about 10-minute drive from the airport, and
Mhm.
that is one of the main reasons to use the airport guest house, because it's in a very secluded area. So that means it's very quiet. It's a beautiful place with a very nice garden, but it's 10-minute drive from the airport. Now,
Yeah.
we all have individual pickups. So we just need to give the Great Lake Safaris with our partner on the ground the time of arrival, and at the exit to the airport there will be someone with a sign waiting for us. If you arrive in the country at 3 o'clock in the morning, you will be picked up and transferred to the hotel. If you come during the day, of course, they applies in the same way. So any time of the day, any time of the night, you will be picked up. And if anyone wants to arrive a day earlier and needs help with the bookings, we can get the agent to help. Of course, the pickup will also apply if you arrive a day earlier, because maybe you want to rest a little bit. One thing from a photography point of view, and anytime we have sort of like free time, potentially it's not going to be free time, because you might decide to have free time and enjoy reading a book or whatever, but I'm going to be available on hand to do image review, conversation, chats with like group chats, reviews, and anything else. So how much you're going to learn from traveling with us, me particularly, it really depends how much you want to learn. I'll make myself available. The more you want to learn, the more questions you ask, the more I can make myself available and address specific questions and issues you might have. So we travel together, and in a very fairly relaxed way. And I'm there to help, and I'm there to make sure that you are in the best possible position to get very good images to take home.
Fantastic. Yeah, Renato, and just want to speak to your capabilities as a photographer. Just incredible. I saw you won an award for a National Geographic Traveler, was it?
Yes.
Quite recently, and congratulations on the win. A beautiful photo of the king penguins from aerial drone. Um,
Yes,
and
nature photography of the year.
oh,
That's the
nature
one.
photographer of the year. That was
It was revealed like 2 days ago. Yeah.
Hey, you're so talented, and it's incredible that we get to work with you in this capacity, and it's absolutely wonderful, and we're so excited. Uh, Renato mentioned his website, renatogranieri.com, and
Yeah.
I would highly encourage all of you to go visit just to check out Renato's work, and his images of Uganda, some of which we're lucky enough to host in our own website, are there, as well as the other places that he goes and the other projects that he supports, specifically the Takugama chimpanzee sanctuary in Sierra Leone, a really worthy cause to support if you're looking to support chimpanzee conservation efforts outside of the scope of this trip. If you're interested in that, certainly something to go check out. Um, Speaking of websites, I do want to point out that we have our website, arcticturnexpeditions.com, which does host the trip itself. So you'll see that there is Renato, you're seeing that, yes? The website. Am I
Yes.
sharing it? Yeah. Okay. So just want to point out that we have trip highlights, some photos that Renato's provided. Renato himself, a nice profile. And then you'll see that our trip dates are May 7th through 17th, 2026. The pricing is 8,995 USD per person. And again, there is an extra cost for an additional gorilla trek, which is 800 USD, and it goes directly to the conservation efforts around Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. We have some photography tips, a lot of FAQ, Renato, an itinerary that Renato has put together for us that can give you a bit more insight into the day-to-day movements of the trip and some photos of accommodation. So if you have any questions about the trip, please refer to the website, arcticturnexpeditions.com, or feel free to send us an email, send Renato an email, and we will be so happy to share our knowledge with you and walk you through any questions that you might have It would be an absolute pleasure just to talk to you about the trip. And if you're interested, please do get in touch.
Absolutely. If you have any questions about photography in terms of like what lens shall I bring, or we have plenty of time before the trip. So all these conversations, the moment you decide to join us in your book, you can easily approach me directly or via Phil. And yeah, we can support you throughout, just to make sure you're in a good position before the trip, rather than just waiting on while you're on the trip. So there's lots of stuff that can be done. Yeah, I'm happy to help with any questions you might have ahead of the trip. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna disappear until and I'll see you on the trip. No, I'm available. I'm available. So any questions that you might think from battery point of view or filter point of view or other equipment point of view, just drop me a line, and I'm very, very happy to pull like some sort of guidelines together so everybody could benefit and so on.
Fantastic. Renato, thank you so much. What a resource such a great presentation just to give us a taste of what Uganda is like and what there is to see there. Please again get in touch if you have any questions, but for now we'll leave it there. Thank you, Renato, for your time here. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll speak soon. All the best.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.